Hey everybody, welcome to another Sunday live stream. It's been a week. It feels, Candy said it earlier, that time has flown between these live streams. And that's because power was out for many of us here at the Aquarium Co-op. And at one point, store was out of power, Candy was out of power, Dean was out of power, I was out of power. And so generators being loaned and stuff like that. But as far as I know, pretty much everybody's fish made it through just fine. And so you kind of get stuck in a time warp when that happens of like, hey, don't have any power. You can really work pretty limited from a phone. And if we seemed, or at least if I seemed a little bit more distant this week, it's because I just was playing catch up all week. And in fact, we launched a product, Community Pellets, on Tuesday, which first time I've had to launch a product without power. Not easy to do, by the way. It's hit a button and wait while my phone is thinking about getting better cell signal. But we launched the Community Pellet, which I don't have any of because it's been delayed due to severe weather. So it will arrive tomorrow. But I've been using it a lot. It doesn't come in this giant container. It comes in a container this size, just like the Magic Feed. And this pellet, as you've probably seen in the video from Tuesday when we launched that video, is the perfect size, basically, in my opinion, for tetras and live bearers and basically community fish. Whether it's an angelfish, whether it's a tetra, live bearer, rainbow fish, barb, everything goes for it. It floats on the top like non-stop, pretty much. Unless you've got some flow pushing it down, then it floats back up. But if you've been using the Magic Nano or the Magic Feed and you love it, this formula is very, very, very similar. Same ingredients, you mix it up a little bit different so that it'll stay floating instead of middle of the water. Sorry, I had some pizza right before I went live. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to get to 5,000 memberships, mostly because it's a goal and I like goals. And I was in Steven's live stream, and apparently you can hit a point where you get everybody that wants one a membership, and then it'll just refund it. So my new goal long term is kind of actually to get enough people in memberships that we can't have anymore. So I'll be matching 1 for 1. I already pre-did about 60 earlier. I've matched about 15 of them. And so I can match, I think, if it still has the same limits that YouTube had like a year ago, the limits are basically I can spend about $500 per account. And I've only got 2 accounts to do that from because for whatever reason, all my other accounts are on the same brand and they treat that as a whole account. So to everybody that did donate membership so far, thank you so much. Everyone that's been a member for years, thank you. And to those who have left feedback on the forum on, hey, what can we do better and what are your ideas? For the most part, if I was to do an unofficial poll, people are just happy and going, hey, the value is great for what we get. I love to hear that. And then there's ideas. We've been talking through them, and we'll see if we can implement anything that makes sense worldwide. We're definitely looking to try and get more benefits to more people. So just kind of building a bigger, better community, if you will. Let's see. I can't remember who asked me, but at the very beginning when we were chatting, we chat for about an hour before we go live, someone asked if we could talk about other fish that can go in a 5-gallon besides bettas. And yep, we've got videos on this and stuff like that, but more and more as I focus on nano tanks, I think that I've got some new options. So like J barbs, they're kind of expensive, but great nano fish. If you ever get a chance to look at those, Google them. You're like, whoa, J barbs are amazing. And then you go, oof, like $15 each. Like, what is this? But very cool. I still think shrimp tanks in 5 gallons are amazing, and I don't think enough people do it. You know, a little tank on your desk, going, wow, what are they doing? Same with snails. And then, there's a bunch of live bearers. I believe that, we've convinced ourselves that live bearers, they need bigger tanks. And for so many years, like the last 50 years, a 5-gallon would have been huge for a pair of guppies. They'll even be reared in 1 gallons or less. And so I think there's actually, yes, there's nano sections at stores, and you could definitely peruse that. But I also think that specimen fish, like one rosy barb and things like that, can be very fun also. And there's always like, well, shouldn't they be in a big group? Like, yeah, maybe. But if you've ever get a chance to raise like an actual specimen, they look amazing. There's no one attacking the fins. They get all of the food, and it. I call it a specimen because when you take a picture, like, wow, I've never seen one look so good, and it's because we don't raise them singularly very often. And so, when you say, oh, that might be stressful, like, it might be, but it's also the best way to breed a lot of these fish is like put a male and female in different tanks, let them go for 3 or 4 months, kind of feeding them and raising them up and getting them really healthy. And then you put them together and you spawn them. And yes, you could definitely keep them in a big group, but I actually think the options are quite large or quite vast for 5 gallons. It's mostly a skill level thing, and most people have a hard time assessing their own skill. They're either too hypercritical or too loosey goosey, and they're like, "Of course I can pull off the impossible." It's hard to kind of, where am I in the pack, and you got to feel your way through it. And so that's my recommendation for 5 gallon. Tons of videos. Everyone's done one. There's sections at stores, and then there's also you can pioneer and go, "Hey, do your own thing," and that's what I'm playing with more and more lately. Let's see here. I've got 3 Coreys and a 20 long, and I've heard they do best with 6 or more in a group. They're thriving really, really well. Should I get more? Only if you want more. Like, I just, I'm trying to think if I know of a fish that I legitimately have seen do worse not in a group. I could maybe make the case for some loaches, but they don't, like, when you get to see them, they're very healthy and they look amazing, but they're more shy. But I'm honestly trying to think of, for all the, as a community of fish keepers, we all go like, well, schooling fish need more. And then I really wonder, like, but is it better? I don't think it's worse to have a group than not have a group, but I also can't say that in what tangible ways, what metrics are we going to judge that by? Like, do they gain more weight? Do they look brighter, better colored? Do they, what metric is it? Because the weight and the color, like, they actually do better solo most often. And I'm sure there's 17 examples. People are like, hey, I ran into this. And like, yes, probably. But of the thousands of fish that would be schooling, a great example for me is like angelfish. I'm convinced they do better solo for the majority of hobbyists. Same with autosynclus. Not that I think they necessarily do better, it's that nobody has enough algae. Like my 800 gallon with 3 of them, they will tear through it in a day and a half. And so being that none of us really have enough, one is going to be better than a pack of them outside of spawning them or really going out of your way to intentionally make algae, which that's 1 in 1,000 people. Most people buy autosynclus to get rid of algae and then hopefully it never comes back. So, yeah, I think that wisdom, maybe old age, am I getting crotchety? Probably all of those a little bit. But as I've always been, I want to challenge everything and just be like, just because we say a thing is something doesn't make it true. Even if even if everybody else is saying this thing, this is pink. If you get 50 million people saying this is pink, people start believing this is what pink looks like, except it's black, right? And so I think we've got a lot of that going on in just fish keeping because it's been that way for 30 years. And so you'll meet people all the time breaking the rules, and yet it's working. Why is that? Because it's an artificial rule, and or the rule isn't always, right? A lot of the rules, they come from, hey, we had a problem, let's put this rule in to prevent that problem. And you probably do prevent that problem. But you don't know that the rule you put in is what fixed the problem. And so, for instance, like the med trio. if you treat antibiotics, anti-parasite, external and internal, and then you always are getting clean fish, right? On the other side of it. But which one of those three is actually the key? And to be honest, we still, 20 years into this, I still am playing with meds going, what if? So what I run into now is that I believe there's a bunch of ways to use those meds, and they're all pretty good. It's mostly keeping everybody on the same page. And a fish store is much different than one person in a fish room versus a importer or a wholesaler. And so depending on who I'm talking to is like, well, what's your skill level? How good are you at identifying diseases? How good are you at documenting things? And depending on that, we can vary from kind of the trio medications all at once. Also, species can matter a little bit. And one thing that I think matters quite a bit is mode of transfer. And so was that from a breeder to your house? Was that from a store to your house? Was that from a wholesaler to your house? Was that from a different continent to your house? Have they been out of a fish tank for 8 days or 22 minutes? All of those things will play into it. And then diagnosing in a bag, which I've been teaching my employees. Do we think this has gill burn? Do we think it's just fungal? Do we think they've just been nipping on each other? Like, what do we think's going on? And that can all change it as well. So, yeah, I kind of covered a lot of stuff there and kind of rambled on in all different directions. So feel free to to challenge that a little bit, ask for more clarification. I can see what I can do. How much have you learned about the hobby since you started your store? Do you feel like an expert when the store first opened? Yeah, if I'm being truthful, I think I'm the smartest person on the planet when it comes to fish. And that's I don't actually think that, but you need that level of confidence to open up your own store. If you don't think you're pretty good at it, you're really gonna probably not be good at it. And so trying to be the best you can be, and then you kind of judge yourself amongst your peers of like, okay, I think I'm pretty good actually what's going on here. And so have I learned more since opening the store? Definitely. Every day I learn something. And it could just be something real stupid and small about fish of like, hey, there's this little factoid. And then there's epiphanies that happen like, oh, wow, this is actually going to be a huge thing. And I would say the biggest thing I've learned is not so much in the store these days. It's with a worldwide audience. And so it's much different to you and your friend are doing aquatics together. That is a different thing than you learning from a store, for instance. And that is different than you learning from a video, right? And some things are real easy, like teaching how to gravel vac, real easy in person because you can do it. You can have them do it. You can say, hey, here's a tip, try that tip, do this, do that, do this. I see exactly what the problem you're having. Doing it through a video, you have to anticipate the problems someone's going to have. And when they're doing it wrong, there's no one to go do it again. Here's where I think it's going wrong. Try this technique. And so all of that's missing. And so a lot of learning is, what is the internet saying? And that changes year to year. And then, and I would say this, if we rewind like 3 years, father fish, and it could be a little longer than 3, it could be like 5, but basically rewind like 3 years, father fish on YouTube kind of just didn't exist, right? And planted like soil tanks were real low in popularity. Rewind like 3 years before that, you had Dustin's fish tanks talking about them a lot. Maybe it was, maybe like 8 years ago. But anyway, so then they had a popularity thing again. And then before that, for Dustin, there was a lull for like 10 years, roughly. And that peak would have been Dr. Wallstad's book and method and forums, right? And so it never went away, right? But you see these peaks and valleys of like, yes, it's popular in the hobby, not popular in the hobby. And while you have, let's say, just natural soil tanks like that doing this over the years, you also like maybe on the inverse. So if planted tanks are real high with soil, African cichlid tanks are low. And as that's coming down, this is coming up. And all the facets, whether it's live bearers, whether it's shrimp, crayfish, arowanas, monster fish, they're all doing this trajectory based on what's going online. And well, each person is presenting and doing things. They've all got their opinions. They've all got their techniques. Also, with each of these peaks, there's different technology available. And so that might be different ways to reach audience. It might be a different way to actually keep fish. And some of those big ones would be like LED lighting has really changed aquariums. I'm trying to think if I'm sure there's other stuff when someone smarter than me has time to think about it, but LED lights have radically changed the aquarium hobby. I'm not even convinced for the better necessarily, because now they're so powerful it's kind of a problem. But I'm trying to think of what the last real wow, that's been a big change. If I was patting myself on the back, I would say sponge filters. And they've existed before I was born, basically, right? But I would definitely say I love sponge filters. I brought them to a peak, and I've kept them fairly popular because I do love them. And so, but that's not, maybe the Easy Flow has made it a bit better, but not nearly in the radical shift from, let's say, a T8 light bulb, long tube light bulb, to an LED. And it was so adopted. It's actually difficult at this point to walk into a store and buy a non-LED light. Chris says various substrates. I think they've had an impact, but I don't believe they've had a major shift. I basically own a few hundred aquariums. Not a single one has aquasoil, for instance. So I think they also get some peaks and valleys in there, but I don't. You can go to a pet store and it's pretty easy to come out with just normal gravel still. It's not where LEDs, pretty much you don't get a choice. You have to go out of your way to not get LED. And so that definitely changes how everybody is keeping fish. And so that I think it's been, hard, not hard. You have to adapt and learn from it of hey, plants were this hard to grow 20 years ago. Well, now you've got so much light, it's more important than it's ever been to have lots of fertilizer because you're running out of nutrients because of the lights are so bright. And if anything, I should just make a company about all we do is talk about algae every day, all day long, because that's all the problems people have is algae. Because these lights come with so much light from LED, everybody's got algae problems. It's, when I talk to my employees at the store, it's we're always going to sell algae eaters. That's the number one selling thing because that's the problem. People come in, just like if you go to the doctor, you go in because you have a problem. Rarely do people come in I just want a checkup. Wow, 1 out of 500 people does that. 499 goes, hey, my thing's broken. How do I fix it? And that's what happens in a pet store is, hey, I got algae. How do I fix it? That's you can have fish illness and stuff too, but of 500 people, algae literally might be 350 of them. Hey, I got algae. How do I fix that? And so that stems, in my opinion, from the LED lighting. We've always had algae problems, but I don't think we've always had them this bad or this. It used to be someone bought an aquarium kit, not a lot of light, and then, they can get a little bit of algae, but not so bad. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, you have that LED light, you don't turn it off for a few days, it can get real bad, and that's kind of hard to fight back. So. My theory is gifted memberships is limited by the number of people who've hit the accepted gifted membership button once they run out. So there's no one left. Yeah, I think that's true as well, which that's a good call out. Eating a bunch of pizza with dairy on it right before I went live has ruined my throat. So give me 1 second here. All right, now I'm good. So if you want a free membership, by the way, the chance of getting one, you gotta click on these little bubbles you see at the top. We donated 50 earlier, and there's a little toggle on there. You want to opt into that. And on my phone, by the way, I'm gonna give them this feedback because this feedback or this method is dumb. On my laptop, I had to click the button and drag it. It wasn't just an allow, a click. You have to click it and drag it, at least when it was I was doing it on Steven's live stream a couple nights ago. So while I was testing, but yeah, so make sure you're opt in because we're gonna give a bunch away. My goal is to hit 5,000 hopefully by the end of the year, and I want to keep building on this membership thing, but I can't help but feel like we need to hit like a critical mass number of like, hey, there's 5,000 paying people that are invested in this, which is different than there's 5,000 people and 2,000 got free memberships, right? The goal would be you're going to get a little taste, and then you go, wow, I really do love the monthly presentations where we hire it out and we do those things. I've also got it in the back of my little brain here. I want to start doing some mobile tours of my fish room and just kind of live. So it's going to be members only, real loose, kind of when I have time available. And we'll go in the fish room, and that'll be totally your time to be like, hey, I want to talk water change solenoid valves. What do you know? And I get down there, and we're looking at it live, and the camera, it's a little dark, and it's all of that. Like, to get way into the weeds into these things, we'll be doing that with the membership stuff. And I'm going to try to do that, at least once a month, and then whether that's an hour, a couple hours, I'm not sure yet. We'll see how it plays, how many people show up, and how the questions are flowing. I've got a question. Just sending you love from the Bay Area. I think you meant to say I have no question. I have to question. I was like, what are we questioning? Thanks, Kyle Hernandez. Thanks for hanging out. Member of 6 months, but I'm pretty sure you've been hanging on the channel for about 8 years. You've been around a long time. Can you only opt in for gifted membership on the desktop? You should be able to do it on your phone. I think one of the requirements is you have to also have hit the subscribe button. Like it won't give a membership to someone who hasn't even subscribed to the channel yet. So you have that factor as well, which, there's a couple of hoops to jump through to get the free stuff. I don't get to set the hoops, so not on me. Anyone know what's up with our friend who runs Aquapro's channel? Haven't seen him in a new video in 4 months. He's living the Instagram, Facebook algorithm dream. He's got a new puppy. He's got a corgi, which I'm spoiler alerting, named Murphy, and it's adorable. I haven't got to meet it in person. I talk to Aquapros maybe every 2 or 3 weeks and just catch up on life and that kind of stuff. And he's been. I'm not gonna spoil. He's had some engagements with like family stuff and that kind of stuff going on, and kind of broke out 4 months ago, and he's still working on that. And I know that what was the last thing I saw from him? Like he was out of power in Oregon too, or whatever. So yeah, it's still a good friend, and I encourage him to come back. He's like, yeah, but once I come back, I gotta be back. He's like, I don't know if I got the time with the commitments he's got to wrap up to be able to do that. So for right now, he says, I'm treading water with Instagram and Facebook. So reach out to him on there, send him some love. He'd like it, I'm sure. So how's the giant guppy project going? Terrible, Jerry. Mostly I've raised some fry up, and I need to mostly trim plants and work on that a little better because it's so plant heavy. I can't even see like how many fish are in there. I've just been feeding them really well. I will say that we've had an absolute fry explosion in the gold guppies. So I've been feeding more magic feed, more and more and more. And so what I'm trying, one of the what do I want to call it? One of the rules I'm trying to break, or set myself, or question, challenge, whatever we want to look at that, right? Is how much to feed fish. People all the time in videos will be like, you're feeding way too much, Corey. And I honestly feel like I don't feed enough. When you watch Dean feed, Dean makes a lot of fish. He puts me to shame. You'd be like, wow, how much you fed, Corey? Dean does that times 10. And so I believe, and here's how I kind of know, Dean sometimes will feed his fish so hard and get such good growth and so many babies that there could be little bits of uneaten food the next day that fungus up. He vacuums it out, makes a little adjustment, continues on, doesn't lose any fish. I haven't seen that in 20 years in my tanks. Like, I fed an insane amount of food to the 800 gallon yesterday. Just some test flake that we won't launch because I don't like it enough. But I was like, yeah, let me try this again. And I put an insane amount in there, and it was still gone in under 5 minutes. And so I know that felt like an insane amount, and I don't even put that much in normally. And I believe fish should be eating, if you're really trying to do what fish want, several hours a day of here's more meals, here's, work it off, all that kind of stuff. And so what I'm seeing is when I go real heavy-handed with the magic feed and things like that, I am just getting more babies. I'm getting more growth. And I want to find that balance for me. And after, my whole life, people going, don't overfeed, don't overfeed, don't overfeed. I actually think we've gotten pretty reserved on that. And I want to be able to come up with my own little rule that I could convey to you guys of like, I want to watch them eat for X. And maybe it's 30 minutes. Like, I don't know. It might be some long period of time. But I've definitely had tanks where it takes a long time for the fish to eat, especially with plecos and other things, that I think I could make some claims like that. And I'm not saying everyone should always do that, because part of it, with everything's got to be qualified, right? If you're running lots of mechanical filtration with a canister filter and a hang-on back, if you put a ton of food in there, it just ends up getting sucked up into there. And so, like with sponge filters, though, that are much more laid back, I don't really run into that issue. And so I'm just playing with my own tanks, and I think that one day I'll be ready to say, like, yeah, it's this much. And maybe I'll dial it in. I probably should start doing this. It's just inconvenient, but start using like, oh, I put this much food into my babies or something, because that's way easier than like, hey, a pinch. That's different to everybody. But if I say, hey, it's 1/2 a teaspoon, or that's what? Yeah, 1/2 teaspoon. That might seem like an insane amount, especially of the magic feed. So, let's see. What if we don't need more babies? Well, then, yeah. I mean, you still want good color and everything, but to me, I feel like fish spawning in my tanks are one of the best metrics I can have to go, hey, are they happy and healthy, and are they pushing forward? So that's why I like to see them breed. And then I can unload them at my fish store. And even before I owned a fish store, I would just give fish to the store, because why not? So, new aquarium co-op measuring spoons coming soon? Nope, not on the list currently. Doesn't mean it would never happen. Just not working on it. I'm in Northern California, want to order live plants, starting to get concerned with cold weather. Basically, if it's above like 20 degrees, don't even worry about it. Under 20 degrees, yeah, there might be hit or miss. We'll still refund your money if it doesn't make it, or we'll send you more plants. Like, we have an algorithm that will look at temperatures, add heat packs and liners accordingly. The best thing you can always do is order on a Monday. That's always the best. Or not. Let me back that up. Order like Saturday night, Sunday, and Monday, because then they leave basically Monday, and they least likely get hung up. They could get a little hung up coming for Thanksgiving, but one day, I ship plants from the warehouse to myself, and I let them sit in the box an extra couple days. And it's right off the. Let's see, it's right off the camera apparently, but with plants, for me, I think a lot of people go through a trajectory of like, if you've never had a plant, like a house plant, you go to Home Depot and you pick out the best looking one, right? And then you try and baby it, and you try to keep it alive, and you might kill it because it's your first plant. And then you have like, you've been doing it for a year or two. Now you're the person that walks into a Home Depot and you're like, where's your damaged plants? I want the ones that are like nearly free and nearly dead. Yep, that thing for $2. I will nurse that back to health. And that plants, whether they're underwater or not, are real resilient. And so that's how I get away with like, yeah, there were an extra couple days in the thing. It was fine. I just honestly was busy. So yeah. a big win for me in my personal life. We got the garage, the second space cleared out, so both of my vehicles, my wife and I, can now park in the garage. Which after the big windstorm and everything, nothing hit that van, but a tree was about 6 feet, from hitting the work van. I was like, all right, this has been on my to-do list for like 18 months. We're going to tackle this. And so we worked on it. And yeah, now both cars can be inside the garage. Did a bunch of runs did a cardboard recycling run and did a bunch, well, not a bunch, but, and a run to, what was it? Goodwill, and donated some stuff. So yeah, made the room. Do I have any carpeting plants since I don't use any soils? I don't. But even when I did run carpeting plants, I didn't run soils. I use Marsilia minuta, and what else do I like using? Pygmy chainsword. I like doing crypts a lot, but soil is just nutrients. People act like it's some kind of magic. It's just nutrients. You can deliver nutrients in a bunch of ways. I use root tabs. You can use soil. That, in my opinion, it's half dozen, 12 in the other. Kind of the same-ish thing. I have a tank with a king betta and chili rasboras. Would I recommend the magic feed or the new community food more for them? This is the answer that no one wants to hear. You got to have both. And why do I got to have both, Corey? Because in my opinion, the magic feed is too small for the king betta, and in my opinion, the community pellet is too large for the chili rasbora. So if that was my aquarium, I'd be like, here's the magic feed for the rasboras, and here's the community pellet for the betta. You might see a little, you might see like, hey, they're going after each other, but it would also take a lot of magic feed to feed that betta to enough that it wants to eat. So unfortunately, it's both in that scenario, and I'll be the first one to say don't spend money. But you've asked me, how should I spend my money? Which one should I buy? And so then I have to give what I believe to be the correct answer. I believe it would be both. My Java fern started turning black. Doesn't rub off in 2 separate tanks. Nothing else affected. Easy tabs, easy green, dosed weekly. Look at lighting. Look at how long they've been in there. Check out the videos that I've been doing with our Java ferns. But basically, when you buy a Java fern, it's been growing out of water. It takes a long time for it to really want to convert and be underwater. A lot of times you get some die-off, you'll get the new growth, and from the new growth, then you'll be golden. Another big thing that happens a lot with brighter lights or lots of competition in the tank. So if you have stem plants and other things going on and they're sucking up all the nutrients, your Java fern goes, hey, what about me? And they're not eating enough. So, kind of try to dial in what of those 3 things might be going on, and then you can remedy it. And, they do love potassium, so one of the things you can do is you can up some potassium. That typically will help. However, it's not a cure-all. If you're in hey, I've had them for a month, and they're kind of going through the transition, potassium will help them. However, it won't just like, oh, it's solved and prevented. Like, it has to go through it. So, let's see here. I've got a 125-gallon tank with a pair of angels and a pair of blue parrots. Please, ideas to add. So the first thing I'll always say, our store mantra and my mantra personally has always been 1 or 3 or more, never 2. So keep 1 angel or 3 or more. Keep 1 polar blue parrot or 3 or more. With pairs, you either get 2 males and they're fighting, you get a boy and a girl and they're breeding and they're fighting, or you get 2 females and it typically is okay, right? But 66% of the time doesn't work out long term for all the tank inhabitants. When you add that 3rd wheel, it creates a little bit more of a dynamic and it settles it down more and more. But as far as what other fish can go in there, the sky's the limit, honestly. You could be like, wow, you've got really nice red swordtails. You could do pink-tailed Chelseus, which are a big kind of torpedo-like fish that you don't see very often. You could do rope fish. You could do Tenopoma leaf fish. You could do Congo tetras. There's a lot of tetras you could do. A lot of barbs you could do. You could do the butterfly fish up top. And really, you got a big tank and very few things to limit what you would keep. So just don't keep fish that will fit in their mouths to start out with. I also wouldn't get super aggressive fish. I wouldn't put an arowana in there because those fish would fit in its mouth. I wouldn't put jaguar cichlids. I wouldn't put a lot. I probably wouldn't put an Oscar in there. Not that you could make an Oscar work. I just probably wouldn't. But it's kind of like that question is so open-ended, which is great for you. It's kind of like saying, I've got $100. What should I buy for my life? And you're like, is there an area you're lacking? Like literally $100 buys so many different things. You got a lot of options. So, yeah. All right, I'm gonna add some more gifts of memberships because you guys have been here for a little bit. We've been here for half an hour. I want to add some. Now I just got to find the right button. Right here. There we go. Had to open it up. Oh, we're playing it in the background. Well, that's not good. It's not good at all. And we'll see. We'll see if it'll let me. This might go, hey, you've spent too much money. You can't do that much. Let's see. What does it say? Is it going to let me? Waiting for it. I think it's going to let me. Okay. Close that back down. I've been planning out finishing my basement and intend to build a fish room to breed for profit. How do you recommend tackling auto water changes? Well, I've got it spelled out in a video or a few videos, like the drainage system and the filling system. I guess where I'm stumbling is like I need a part to start on because it's like, the topic could be so long and deep that it's more than 2 hours of a conversation. And so it's like, but what part did you want to focus on? Is it, how am I going to remove chloramines from my water? Is it going to be, how do I get rid of hardness out of my water? Is it going to be, how big of a water heater should I have for this type of room I'm building? Is it, what size of piping am I going to use for the fill lines? What tubing do you recommend? What, there's, what app and solenoids do you recommend? There's like a lot to go through. And so narrowing it down, I could definitely talk a little bit more about that. There's someone else building a fish room, a few other people on the forum, and I'll get in there and go, all right, here's what I would do in this part. And usually, I guess where I'm getting to is every build is unique, whether it's my store expansion, my fish room. Each one presents its own challenges, and you have to overcome them. Like in Kentucky, a lot of chloramine, so we went with a tankless water heater, so we have unlimited hot water basically, and then we needed a giant system to strip out the chloramine. So unlimited water, but means we can use a lot, but we also need to take it out really fast to do that. So that challenge is different than here. I'm on a well, right? And then, and so like a lot of calcium in this, you couldn't use drippers, for instance. It would crust up and wouldn't work. And then at the store, water's really soft, right? And so auto water changing a ton, we use a lot of crushed coral to combat that because the water is soft and low pH. So there's kind of just an insane amount that goes into that topic. And that's why it's so hard to go like, well, yeah, which part are we looking at here? Is there a limit on how many free memberships someone can get? I have no idea. I know some people have won more than one before. I don't know if there's a cooldown period. I do know that the overall goal with the whole project of that is like, the goal is supposed to be like, here's a sample, and you go, ooh, I like that. And then you buy a membership. That's kind of the way it's intended. If you don't like it, well, then you don't need to win another membership because you don't like it, right? But it's meant as a sample of like, yeah, let the people check it out. Do you like it? Do you want to see that member talk every month? Do you want to participate in this? Do you want you'll get a free, after the first month, by the way, So you will get a free, that green, like super chat looking thing. You get one of those every month. So, and I typically answer them all because I stand out a lot. You can also pay to make that happen, but by all means, I would much rather have you get a membership and you get other things for it. So I don't know what we're reading, but something red is glittering llamas, and I love it. Can you run a 75-gallon tank with just a sponge filter? How many would I suggest? You can, and I typically run them with 2 mediums is what I do. You can do larges, but honestly, I wouldn't even sell larges if it was up to me, but the public decides what we sell. The larges, they're hard on your hands, they're hard to fit in bags, and so I much prefer the mediums for ease of use. So I personally run 2 mediums, kind of one about 1/3 each in, or a quarter in, and that's what I would do. You can run a 300-gallon sponge filters. You can run anything with sponge filters, honestly. There's giant systems around sponge filters. That's kind of why I love them. It's not like, ooh, is this thing going to work? It's like, no, it will work. Do you have water? It'll work. Do you have an air pump? It'll work. So, use of Paracleanse versus ProziPro. I see I sell both. Yeah, they are different products. They, on surface level, you would think they're the same. Do I have Prozi? Nope, it's in my medicine cabinet. So Paracleanse is metronidazole, which is a dewormer, and praziquantel, which is a dewormer and antiparasite. Well, also metronidazole is antiparasite as well, but Paracleanse has both, basically, metronidazole and praziquantel. However, the praziquantel that's in there is not as high of dose as ProziPro is. So ProziPro, for instance, and this is kind of how I start seeing the forest through the trees, of like, wait, ProziPro, you dose and let it sit for a week, right? That's the way it's intended to be used. Paracleanse, you dose, skip a day, change water, do all those things. You don't just let it sit by a week by the instructions. That's kind of how I started figuring out, like, wait, I think these meds can sit for longer. So that's why I went with that method. But I typically use praziquantel when I've got super sensitive fish, or I'm really wanting to be sure. So maybe I do like a week of Paracleanse, rest the fish for a week or 2, then I'll do a week of praziquantel. It's also useful if you're treating some of the shrimp parasites. I think is it Elabiopsidae? No, Vorticilla. But what do I want to say? I feel like Prozi is better at some parasites in the higher concentration than Paracleanse is, but Paracleanse is more broad spectrum, as in it handles more things. So in a perfect world, I kind of like to do both spaced out, and that's why I still carry both, and I even use them in the fish room still. And so it's just different but similar, I guess. Yeah. Julie Brown, I'm chuffed to catch her live. That always makes me giggle. Chuffed. Love your work for years, dude. All right, Julie, I appreciate that. So, wait. I have a surprise breeding of 2 Chinese algae eaters in my 40-gallon community. Any tips for successful spawns? I've never bred those. And so, are these actual Chinese algae eaters that are like a foot long? Those things get beefy. I've never spawned that fish, and I don't have tips for you. So, post pictures, though. I'd love to see it. If you got fry and babies, because I've never seen it before. So I legitimately would love to see it on the forum. Let's see here. I've got a dumb question. Got my first big tank, a 125. Only got a 407 in the corner, which is a canister filter with a spray bar. Can I use another 407 and meet that spray bar in the middle, or are they fighting each other? I think you could. I wouldn't. I would just, like, you got the output and the output, run the spray bars, like, lengthwise until they almost touch, and they'll just be spraying out this way. I don't think you're going to get any benefit from linking them up. And in fact, when one impeller maybe got compromised a little bit, you might create a little bit of back pressure. So I can, in my mind, I'm seeing downsides and I'm not seeing any benefits to it. So I wouldn't link them up is where I'm going with that. So I wouldn't. I don't have any facts on it. Maybe someone else is like, oh, you're gonna get, but yeah, I don't see a benefit to that for you. What's my thoughts on wave makers? I have a spot in my tank that does not get any flow, and I have an easy flow in it. There's a time and a place for them. I use one on the 800-gallon tank. Depending on what you're trying to do, definitely grab one. A power head, a wave maker. The other thing is you could get a much more powerful air pump. I mean, one day maybe I'll do it on the stream, but like a freshly cleaned easy flow at full power from a linear air piston pump, the water will shoot like 4 feet out of the aquarium. I definitely have soaked myself and the floor multiple times, like working on these things. And so they can put an insane amount of flow if you have the air to accommodate that. And that takes a pretty beefy air pump. Not like our battery-powered air pumps are not that beefy. I'm talking $200. Not that they always have to be $200, but you would need one that puts out lots of liters per minute to be able to accomplish that. But then you don't have to have other devices. What I like about sponge filters is they already have their own pre-filter. So it's kind of just one little piece of equipment in there. I say little loosely. Does no planaria work on Hydra too? I haven't done any testing. I've heard reports that it does, but I haven't done any testing, so I can't really speak to, definitive yes or no in my experience. Let's see here. How do I raise my KH without raising my pH? It's not very easy to do. In fact, I'm not even sure off the top of my head how you do it. There must be an additive somewhere, but I could think of like 10 ways to do it while adjusting pH, and almost no way to do it without doing that. But I always start with like, can't you just raise pH? People, that's probably like all the other things on the internet. People get real worried about like pH, and it's, for me, as long as it's above 7, I'm golden. If I drop below 7, doesn't mean it's going to die, but I always start asking questions like, well, how do you have 6.4 pH? And how do you know it's not lower? Did your kit go that low? When's the last time you're doing water changes? Because so often people start higher and their tank drops there from neglect. Even if they're like, I'm cleaning it every week, like that doesn't mean you're cleaning it enough. And there's, what I'll say is this, is we've got guides and stuff, but even if you change 50% of your water every week, you can still fall behind easily. So imagine you feed food, I'm going to use big numbers here because big numbers are easy. You fed food for a week, you now have 100 nitrates. Oh my gosh, let me change 50% of the water, right? Next week, you feed food again, you make 100 nitrates. Now you have 150 nitrates. You go, oh my gosh, let me change 50% of the water. You're down to 75. Next week, week 3, right? You feed again, you make 100 nitrates, you're at 175. Oh gosh, 50% water change on Sundays while Corey's on his live stream. Boom, now you're at like 87.5 nitrates. See how it rose every week even though we were doing massive water changes? So a lot of people will fall into that, not out of neglect, but just not enough maintenance. It's a big difference. It's not just full neglect always. It could just be just not enough. And that's why I'm always a little bit leery, like, I don't have to test my water. My stuff's fine. Like, it is until it isn't. And you won't know it. And a lot of times you can have that go on for years. And it's fine. It's funny, whenever I start working with people, they're having lots of problems. And these are YouTubers, these are prominent people, these are lifelong aquarists, customers. And I continually go like, if you want my help, you're going to start from the beginning. I want to see pictures of your water tests. And they're like, no, water's fine. I'm like, I will not help you until you take pictures of the water tests. 50% of the time, yeah, this thing was crazy. Don't know how the water got like that. Like, so you've been having lots of problems and you would do anything except for actually like test That's your problem. Your problem is literally yourself. And employees will do this. Lots of people will do it all the time. And it's like, you will do anything except for the basic steps to diagnose the problem because you're too advanced for that. And I don't understand why. It's not, I don't wear like a badge of honor. And so many people do. I don't change my water. I don't have to test my water. I've never had a sick fish. Like, cool, great. But that's not really a badge of honor. I would much rather like, I've had to treat 4 million sick fish and I'm a wizard at it. Like, oh, I got something to learn, right? So I wish more people would test their water more often. How do you win a membership? Make sure you click on one of the 50s up top and you've clicked allow membership and you're already subscribed to the channel. And then when someone else gifts some, I'll match it and hopefully you'll win. It also, I do believe it has a priority system on how much you're interacting with the channel. So if you like and subscribe and leave comments and chat in here with other people, I believe you are more likely. Now, but I do believe it's like a long-term thing. So if you make 100 comments today, but someone else has made 500 comments over the last 3 months, I think they're higher in the priority, I think. So you'll just have to be, and true to form, like that's good. Like you just have to be active and participate in the community, and you're more likely to get rewarded for that, I guess. I wish, I tell them this all the time, I wish I had a way to give a membership directly to someone. Old Fashioned Whiskey says, you win a membership by testing your water. If I could directly give you one, I would just give that guy a membership. Going, yeah, you made me laugh. I like it. Rob Douglas, 6-month member, paying it forward by giving away 5 memberships. Welcome, Aquarium Fantasy. Guadalupe Guacamole. I don't know why I put like an accent on that. I was trying to say it fast, and then as I was saying it fast, it kind of like started getting jumbled up, and somehow my lizard brain like kicked in and added some flair to it. Aaron Lowry, Lumi, Hip Hop Hillbilly, all new members. Do you have any more updates on the 3D printing adventure? No, I basically took a week off. The only thing I do right off camera, I have a brand new bamboo printer and 4 more spools of, what is it called? Sunlu? Yeah, Sunlu. What do they call that? I've already lost everything I've learned. Filament? Yeah, filament. I haven't set it up yet, though. I intend to, but if there's one thing you learn real quick, 3D printers don't work so well when you don't have power. Apparently, they need power. So, I've been doing a lot of stuff, and then, yeah, I basically, maybe sometime this week I'll set it up, I hope. I gotta get ready for, I guess I hadn't said that yet. We're doing a big 4-hour live stream on Thanksgiving, and then I gotta go to Grandma's house to have Thanksgiving with my mom and grandma and wife and what all the other stuff I gotta do. So make sure you tune in for that if you can. We'll do some fun stuff, I think. We're gonna do some, I'll probably give away some memberships. I'll probably do some more stuff. And I got some ideas. The 4-hour show, you gotta fill more time. And if I wasn't trying to make sure I spent time with my grandma every year, because it could be her last, I would have done an 8-hour live stream. But I want to make sure that I don't go, well, I live streamed, and then my grandma passed away in 6 months, and now I feel terrible. So making sure I fit that family time in as well. Aubrey donating 5 memberships. Let's see if it'll let me match those. That means 10. I could probably match 10. Let's see. 10 more. 10 more right here. Let me click a button. Does it cut me off yet? No. Okay. We're not cut off. We're still in it to win it. What time do I expect to stream on Thursday? I think I set it so I start at, I don't know. It's set. It's there. Someone's got to look it up. I went back and forth going, do I start super early and go long? Do I start midday? I think maybe I start at noon, maybe 3 p.m. Eastern. Let's see. I start at, where's it at? No, I couldn't have been more wrong. I start at 2 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, that's when I'll be live on Thanksgiving. By the way, mostly the live stream with lots of laughs and everything will just me be going, yeah, no Black Friday sales. What do you mean no Black Friday sales? Yeah, no Black Friday sales. I almost did a forum post on this. I really, I feel like every year we see it more and more than ever, where we as consumers, we look at something we want to buy and like, ooh, yeah, Black Friday, I'm gonna wait. And then you go to buy it Black Friday and you're like, oh, you raised the price by 20% and then you made it 22% off. So like you do save like a tiny little bit. Oh man, I got like pizza in my teeth. What's going on here? I got it. I saw it in my own reflection. You save like 2%, but it's not that Black Friday discount where it's like you could have had this thing 2 months earlier. And so I'm real committed to offering everyday honest low, I don't want to call it low pricing, fair pricing. Because if I go with low, then people be like, you could technically offer it lower. Like, you're right. I could fire everybody at the company and we could offer it lower technically. But fair pricing so that everybody can make a living from it and we can offer the continued support long term. And what that's allowed us to do, that when we do have things go wrong, we just make it right. Literally, when something goes wrong, we go, how can we make that right for you? When you cut margins to the bone, you go, ooh, you did something wrong? That's on you. So many retailers at this point of like, you've got to prove a court case before they'll refund your $12.62. And we don't want to become that business. So we purposely set it up so that we won't. In fact, I watched the Katie Tropical video today, and I might even talk to John and be like, can I do a react to that? Because, to me, it's real obvious. Like, yeah, the TLDR is like they're not selling betas anymore, and it's like, oh, it turns out it's an insane amount of work. Yes. And a lot of the points he hit on is why we don't sell live fish online and scaling it and doing all of that. But there's a lot of points that I would love. I honestly just believe that the general public is not ready to pay what fish cost. And what I mean by that is we've been paying like $3 for Neon Tetra for like the past 50 years. And to get it across the world, get it to you healthy, get it delivered to your home and all that, it's going to have to cost more. And until all the pricing just goes up and people are willing to pay it, they just won't. If you rewind 15 years and someone said a candy bar at the grocery store is going to cost you $2.50, you'd be like, never. How dare you? I would never pay that price. Meanwhile, you still watch people buy candy bars all day long. We're not. We don't. But, and money it's always a finite resource, just like time is a finite resource. And so you will spend it where you need to. And so obviously, spend it on shelter and things you need for your life. And then you can spend extra on fish. But until there's a lot of people, I run this all the time where I'll be like, yeah, you can buy it from Dan's Fish, you can buy it over here. And they'll be like, how dare you? I can find that fish over here for 1/3 the price. And then it's, in my experience, not the same. I even ordered one of them and I was like, this is garbage compared to the other one. But anyway, John brings a great point about sustainability. And what not like in the wild, but like they were selling betas and it was ruining their life. I have been down this road and I know what it's like. When we were like at 100,000 subscribers or less, I think, I listed all the fish we had in the store on the website. We literally sold every fish in the store overnight. Horrible experience, overworked, not a good idea. Don't do that. And you need to build business in a way that is sustainable. So it's like, the price you're collecting for this today, are you willing to do this for the next 50 years? Because maybe you're willing to mow the lawn for your parents for $10 while you're in high school. But at age 50, you might not be willing to mow lawns throughout your neighborhood at $10 a lawn because now you have a job, now you have kids, now you have responsibilities. And so had you set the price at mowing the lawns $100, you might still be mowing lawns today. And so that's what it comes down to, is like, our goal is to fairly sell products so that we can offer the support and do it basically forever and, make it work. Because it doesn't, as unfortunately John and Lisa are finding out, it's like, it's a bummer when you can't do the thing you want to do because it's like, oh, it's not scaling well. Like they love the betas, they love doing what they're doing. they just gotta, and then they had one of their suppliers drop out, and we, just like we love our lights. People every day, someone asks, why are you getting rid of your lights? It's not by choice. We're not getting rid of them by choice. We don't have a choice. Have to find a new manufacturer. Bethany says, help, I've got a sick betta. Damaged fins, clamp fins, fin rot, fungal infection. Will aquarium salt and stress coat help? Just use salt. I would quarantine without plants. 1 tablespoon per gallon. I wouldn't even use a stress coat. I would just use a normal dechlorinator if you have chlorine. And, yeah. Let's see here. Are you culling panacories if their black stripes are faded or not as dark? No. I personally don't. So Donald Hall says, yeah, but John's distributor tripled the price he charged John and Lisa. This is like the part I want to really go over in detail. I think the guy did the right thing. And it all depends on how someone presents it, right? But I couldn't help but hearing this. Our supplier tripled the price. How dare they? Watching their 10 minutes of the video, we were doing this thing and not making money. And it didn't make sense for us to keep doing it. Had Katie Tropicals tripled the price of their bettas, they'd be going, hey, every betta we do, maybe now they make enough money that they could do that for the rest of their lives. Of like, hey, we make $50 a betta, and it takes this much work. Great. And I'm saying profit $50. Perhaps the supplier was doing the same thing, going, hey, what I'm doing now is not sustainable. I can't keep this up. This is $10 lawns that I'm mowing. I've got responsibility. It's not going to work. For it to work, I have to get $30 a lawn. I'm going to raise my price to $30 per lawn. I will lose some customers, but at least the ones that stay, when they need their lawn mowed, I can sustainably do that. Now, the business model that Katie Tropicals had, they must have decided it didn't support the $30 lawn, right? Or that their customers wouldn't pay the higher price. But to me, when you take out the people and the feelings and you just look at the numbers and you go, let's say, hey, this guy used to sell bettas for $10. Now he's selling them for $30. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And then you've got the person that was buying that and selling it. Maybe they were selling it for $30 when they were buying it for $10. I don't know these numbers, by the way. I have no idea. And now they'd have to sell it for $90. The honest thing is, it might have been the best thing they could do is sell them for $90, because then they go, well, we only sell 20% as many bettas as we used to. But now, when it takes an hour to get the picture of the betta, when it eventually does sell, they might make enough money of like, hey, we would continue to do that. And that's really, everything in the world kind of comes down to, you have hours in a day. Are you going to spend it watching the Aquarium Co-op live stream? Are you going to play in your tanks? Are you going to go to work? Are you going to spend it with your child? Are you going to spend it with your spouse? Are you going to do gardening? Are you going to do? And so when you take out all the money and you just go, are you enjoying taking pictures of bettas and selling them? Are you enjoying the breeding of it? Are you enjoying being the middleman wholesaler of it? Are you enjoying being the influencer of it? Are you enjoying being the consumer of it? We all basically get to pick that. Do you want to make it? Do you want to get it from point A to point B? Do you want to retail it? Do you want to consume it? We pretty much will pick one of these modes in everything in our lives. If I pick up these, do I want to make them? Do I want to be the middleman that brings in, $1 million worth of these and spreads them out to every Target in the state or in the country? Do I want to be Target? Do I want to have someone else do all that work and we will sell these? Or do I want to be the person at home that says, I need the measuring spoons, I'll order these and I'll use them in my kitchen? All of us will be one of those, right? And so if you are in one of the steps and you go, hey, this isn't worth it. If you say, hey, these aren't worth being in my kitchen, you just stop buying. If you're making these and you don't want to make them anymore, they cost too much to make, you just stop making them. If you are the person getting these from wherever they're made to all the stores and you're not making money and it's not fulfilling, you will just stop doing it. And then if you're Target or Walmart or Amazon or whoever, if you're not making money on these, you have to stop doing it. Now, the alternative to stopping all of those, by the way, is raising prices to a point where you would do it. If you hate eating, let's say you hate eating, what's something that's real foul? Like, what are those like 100-year-old eggs or something? Something, anyway, there is a point in which you'll do things. Will you do it for $5? No, I wouldn't do it. Will you do it for $50? No, I wouldn't do it. Do it for $500? I got to work tomorrow. I won't do it. We do it for $5,000? Yes, maybe once. Would you do it for $50,000? Of course I would. Would you do it for $500,000? Definitely. Would you do it for $5 million? How many I got to eat? Right? It's all a thing. And so the big thing of it is each individual human can make a choice and go, is this or isn't worth it? Now, there can be, there's the lines always get blurred of like, can I take advantage of people? Yes. And it's the person on the other side. Someone goes, hey, this is a great value. The next person goes, that person's taking advantage of someone. It all depends, it's the best thing I've ever seen on this, by the way, is water. Water is something everybody needs in their life. And when you kind of look at it, it's like, okay, at your tap, it's pretty cheap. In a puddle outside, it's free, right? Pretty cheap at tap normally. Bottled water from Costco in bulk or something like that, pretty cheap, but more, right? So it went from let's say free, a penny, let's go to 30 cents, let's go to gas station, $2, let's go to sporting event, $8, let's go to, you're on a desert island, and no, you're on a Survivor, and you need fresh water real bad. And if you win Survivor, it's $1 million. So now all of a sudden it's worth a lot of money to you, right? Or you're stuck in the desert. You just got in a helicopter crash. You'd pay a lot of money for that water. And so the right thing at the right time, at the right access. And one thing I will point out that I think a lot of people, just because life has shifted so much in the last 20 years, we're talking about a betta getting delivered to your door versus going to where they are in the wild, or the breeder. Oh, they're bred in Indonesia. You're not going to take a flight and go pick one out. So there's a lot of things that happen before it gets to your house. And so when people, and I'll use myself as an example. If you say, Corey, the magic feed is too expensive, right, to have delivered to my house. I don't want to pay $6 for shipping. Then I go, great, go to your local fish store and buy it. And they go, then I'd have to drive there. I got traffic and it costs gas. Like, yeah. You know what it also costs to get it to your house? Gas and traffic. Someone has to physically get it there. So either in your mind, you're willing to pay someone else $6 to do that for you, or you're willing to go do it for less for yourself. You can trick yourself into going, I get it for free when I spend $50. Like, it's just baked into all the products, really. It's kind of how it works. And so, shipping is there's always a cost there. So we all just trick ourselves in different ways. Heck, I'd do it for a surprising amount of things for a dozen Taco Bell tacos. All right, then. Aquahuna sent me 4 DOA laser Corys twice in a row. Never again. Oof, that's a bummer. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming they took care of you, and I hope they're making it right for you. That makes it sound like I'm trying to hide something. No, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if they refund shipping. That's why whenever I ship fish, I always refunded shipping, because I want people to be out nothing. When something goes wrong, because that is one thing I do believe. So after all the stuff I just talked about, when there's an exchange and you say, hey, I'm willing to buy this from you, Corey, for $12, and I'm willing to pay the $6 shipping, it is 100% my responsibility to get this to you in a usable form to your home at that point, because that's what you bought. It's not, this one got lost, so you need to pay shipping again. We don't do that. We go, nope, it's on us. Our contract in our mind is we got to get that to your home. To your home. That is on us. So if we did a refund, I've never understood that, by the way, and I don't agree with that. And I don't believe I've ever done it when I sold fish. I don't understand, in the fish world, you buy 10 fish and they arrive to you dead, and then the fish person goes, we'll refund your money but not the shipping. And I'm like, that literally is part of it. That is literally part of it. And so I believe that you're entering into a contract of you paid this amount of money, it's supposed to get to you alive or in a working condition if it's a product. And when it doesn't, you don't go, too bad, we're not going to refund that part. Like, no, that's part of it. You can imagine if you paid someone to build you a house and you bought all the materials and then they didn't build it, but they're like, no, you still owe us for the labor. Like, what? No, it's an all or nothing thing. These are all or nothing things. So, yeah, so odd that refunding shipping for fish isn't the industry standard. I agree. I don't understand that. I realize it's expensive. I totally understand that shipping is expensive, especially for live fish. That is very true. But it doesn't make sense to shift the cost onto the consumer, in my opinion. I do believe this, that people need to charge more. If your business model can't refund the shipping, then I think they should charge more. So, yeah, so Lumi says, I got $56 in snails all DOA, but did not refund shipping. Yeah, I believe they should refund shipping. Now, I happen to know Aquahuna, and they're charging very little for shipping. What is it, $12.99? They lose money on every shipment they ship out in terms of just raw shipping. They'd be much better off charging $24.99 shipping, and then if you had a problem, refunding your shipping. However, that is way harder to get first-time customers, because first-time customers, they just look and they go, ooh, this thing's $3 instead of, well, it should be $13, but it's only $3. And then when something goes wrong, that's where it's like, oh. Love the new air stones. Have them running in all my underground filters now. Hey, Uncle Smiley's Aquariums. Do I have any sitting here? I got one in my hand. I'm playing with it. These were basically made for your scenario. Like underground filters, a few other uses where easy flows weren't already in use. Plus, we had already spent way too much money making what I think is the best weighted air stone I could come up with. So we put them out. So I'm glad to see that the few people that, not the few, it's not like, it sounds like no one's buying it. The people that are buying it, I'm glad to see that you're enjoying them. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm always so anxious when I launch any product of just like, I've done what I think is the best. Let's see if my peers agree. And then most times you guys do. I'm like, okay, good. I'm not crazy. Sometimes like, oh, no one likes this? I'm the one who likes this, huh? Huh. Okay. Let's see. Corey, your brine shrimp eggs are amazing. Nothing compares to them as far as quality. Well, thank you. We pay a stupid amount of money for those eggs. In fact, we will run out, by the way. We will run out of eggs sometime, I think, maybe January, February, out for a little bit. Just because it costs too much money to order more. We don't have enough cash flow because all the containers, we still have containers on the water, by the way. All the containers, like we place them like, here's one, a month later, here's one. Basically for like 4 months, we're like, place an order every month. Well, they all kind of like scrunched up and weren't getting delivered. And we had all that money sitting out there. And so now we have tons of inventory. We got to sell it to free up money to order brine shrimp eggs. So there could be like, oh man, there was like a month or something. Plus we also, more and more people are buying them. So that's good. But we also need more freezers. So we need about $70,000 in brine shrimp, and then we need like another $20,000 to $30,000 in more freezers to store them. So it's $100,000 buy. And it's like, well, I'm like, okay, let's see what sales are like for the next few weeks, and then we'll place that order and we'll get them in like 2 or 3 months. So yes, weighted air stones. These have weight to them. We have maximized the weight to them so that they will help offset the air going inside that wants to make them float. Yeah. Have I seen the Amazon debate on their podcast that John and Jason do? I haven't. I keep wanting to. I don't find the time to listen to more podcasts, unfortunately. I kind of want to. They've had some good topics, but I haven't had a chance. To be fair, I've never listened to one of them yet. So, not out of choice, though. It's like, dang it. Let's see here. I've loved everything I've gotten from Aquarium Co-op, but my 3 air pumps have gotten really loud. Any fixes? your fix would be email customer service and take some video, and we will go through it. The reason I say that is I don't want to like start throwing out, maybe this will work, maybe this will work, waste a bunch of time. It's like, let's see what we're actually dealing with first. Because I've done that before, and then people finally send me a video, and it's like, you literally have it in a wood cabinet on a wood floor that is like made to get louder. And then there's some people like, oh man, you just have a defective unit. Let's get that fixed for you. So email customer service, we can go through that. Kind of go, I would say like pump by pump, because all three could be different. They could all have the same thing. Without knowing more information and kind of digging into it, we'll just be guessing. And that's not a waste of time, because it's not an efficient use of time. That's what I wanted to say. Let's see. Did I miss Tiffany donating 10 subs and Bethany? So hold on. I missed a few things during that whole rant-a-thon. Do I think platies can become the new guppy? No. Platies get too big. I love platies. I love Ariatis a lot. Do I ever think they'll replace guppies? No. You're saying new guppy, like maybe you're talking all those color morphs? We got a long way to go for that, but maybe. Yeah, there it is. So Tiffany, that's 11. Let me match 11 of them real quick. Thank you for participating and helping out. Let's see. Let me pull this up here. Let me buy some memberships. Let's buy 10. I'm just getting you guys ready for the speaker we'll have. Oh, I hit the limit. I gotta switch accounts. It won't let me do it anymore. So I gotta switch accounts. I'm maxed out one account so far. Let's see. Let's try this. And here. Try buying it on the main account now. So I owe 11. That's a poll. Let me do this right here. So let me try 10. See if it'll go through. This is the best content, by the way, watching me buy stuff. There's 10 and one more. Come on, one more through here. And there we go. All right. Someone said, did I ever make an auto doser? Not yet. Have not made an auto doser yet. And in fish keeping news, I will say I'm absolutely fascinated, and I don't know any more than you guys would know, about the new Ryan / bulk reef supply / serious fish keeping new thing. I want to know, like, is Ryan fully out of bulk reef supply and now doing his own thing? Is it a new thing under that umbrella? But they're doing an interesting model, so I'll be watching to see how it works. And basically, I find it interesting that bulk reef supply basically got bought by which is a saltwater company. And they do sell some freshwater too, to be fair. Now, but they made their YouTube channel and everything on saltwater. They sold to a investment firm and changed a lot of things about the business. And then Ryan took a sabbatical. Now he's back for like their Black Friday live stream, I think, and this one video they did, and he's starting a whole new project that it's almost like one of those things like, oh, this seems like this is something completely different without saying it is or isn't. But the part I find fascinating is the whole new Serious Reefer channel thing is going to be fan-funded, meaning everything is behind, well, seemingly, I don't know, proof will be in the pudding when I see it, everything will be behind the member paywall. So $10 a month, you get access to that. Initially, you're like, ooh, that sounds steep. But the goal would be that there is no bias. So there's no sponsors. There's no like Aquarium Co-op's always going to be like, you should buy Aquarium Co-op crap because that's who pays the bills, right? But in theory, if only you guys donated money and paid for what was done there would be no more sponsors. And there could be, right? I do have some questions like, oh, on the Patreon it says like, oh, it'll be fan funded and then affiliate links and other stuff. And in my mind, I'm like, that still taints it because it's like, I could sell this product with no affiliate deal, or this one with an affiliate deal. And what you do with the money is the bigger thing. Like, you could just keep it all, you could put it all back into the project. Time will tell. I find it very interesting, and if you're into reef keeping, probably worth checking out, I think, at least initially. And I do think they've done some of the best videos ever for saltwater, and maybe even, on YouTube in terms of aquarium stuff in general. So if they get back to those super, like, down the rabbit hole type experiments and stuff they did, that is a community resource that does take funding to pull it off. It's the closest I think we're going to get to, like, research, like funded research for aquarium crap. And so I'll be interested to see how it works out. That's what I would say. But I decided I'd bring that up because it was interesting and new in the hobby, and I just stumbled upon it yesterday or the day before. So yeah, I'm going to be watching going, I'll be interested. That's all I can really say, because I'm not super into watching actual saltwater videos, but I would be interested in seeing how does the channel grow, how do they react, how does the public taking it, are people ready? And that's the big question everyone's had for a long time. Like, are people ready? Whether it's, are people ready to pay for shipping? The answer is no. We've tested extensively. Like, I can tell you, I could be like, this thing is $5 plus $12 shipping, and you go, I would never ever order that, ever. And then if I go, this thing's $12 plus $6 shipping, you guys buy it all day long. It literally could be cheaper, and you won't do it because you won't pay the expensive shipping, even if the product's cheap, right? So it'll be interesting to see if the collective public is ready to go, yeah, let's do a viewer-funded thing yet. And everything, if you really look at it, everything is kind of viewer-funded, right? Like, we are. You guys buy our stuff, and then we make content. But in that thing, there wouldn't be the content would be the product. Where in our model, this is the product. You have to buy the product, and then we make the content. So basically, the big question is, are we at a point where people are willing to pay money and treat the content as a product from an influencer, or I don't want to call it, like, we're willing to do it at the movie theater, right? We're willing to do that, but clearly there's a difference between a movie theater and Ryan or me or something like that. But are we at a point now where some of the creators, maybe that influencer, we'll go to creator, some of the creators, are they at a point where they could be supported purely by the fans and then only beholden to the fans? I'm interested to see if that would play out. Yeah, Steven says, I will pay more if the shipping is free. My brain is defective. That literally, we literally ran that for like 6 months. Because I remain committed to getting you guys the best pricing possible and that we can stay in business and everything. And I was like, it's better if everybody just pays the shipping that is associated with what they're buying. That is literally better, and I can offer some lower prices. Except collectively, people were like, no, we're not doing that. As in, you guys didn't buy. So then when we go back the other way, it's like, okay, shipping $6 or it's free at $50. Everybody just buys like it's no tomorrow. And so it just shows me, like, no, as a society, we're not ready yet. You don't want to pay $12 to ship one airstone, right? So that's the kind of the problem. So instead you pay $6. Meanwhile, we pay $14.50, by the way. We pay the cheapest package that basically leaves Aquarium Co-op is $14.50 at this point. So it's got to be baked into everything somewhat. Otherwise, we would straight out of business. So Michael donating 5 memberships. I will match such a generous donation because I haven't hit my limit yet. And I want to grow the memberships, and I want to do more with memberships. Which, So I need to explain a timeline here, because now it's going to look real apparent, because the comment section will be full of this of like, Corey's trying to do what the reef guys are doing. He's going to try to charge $10 memberships. I could see it coming a mile away. The series of events, I was in Steven's live stream. He hit to the point where he couldn't even get more members because everybody that participated in his channel was a member. And I was like, wow, I wonder if there's a limit on my channel. I want to grow that a bunch. Then then the next day, Saturday, because his live stream was on Friday. The next day, I saw this whole Serious Reef thing, and then I just talked about that. They literally have no relation because I'd already decided, like, hey, I want to try to do this thing, and I scheduled the Thursday live stream. I wanted to give away. My plan is to say thanks and give away a bunch of stuff, a bunch of memberships and stuff. So all that was in plan, but I could see now going, there's someone, going, oh, this guy I see what he's doing here. It's purely coincidental. I promise you. Which, no, the person that thinks I'm out there to pull a move is not going to take my word for it anyway, so it doesn't matter. What happened to the Vortex diatom filters from back in the day? Is there anything like that now we can use to rapidly clean a fish tank? I think technically, last time I looked, Vortex filters still were being made, and you could buy them, but they just fell out of favor. So if you're here earlier in the live stream, remember that whole like ebb and flow? Well, Vortex filters were high, and then they've ebbed for like the last 30 years. But I do think they're effective. Tetra made the best ones that you could actually like move from tank to tank. I think they could bring that back and it would just sell. I would love to see that item come back. But really, I think it's an advanced hobbyist tool and a store tool. And I think we've just gotten a lot better at knowing where the money is. And so what does that mean? That means you could make that filter and you would sell 10,000 of them this year. And some of you are going, that sounds great. And then you could make random, let's say you're Tetra, and you just go, I'm going to make a filter, or let's make it even easier. I'm going to make a food. And you go, oh, we sold 1.2 million units of that food this year? That's the scale, right? And so that's where like great products, if they don't hit mass market, aren't on the radar for these big companies anymore. What's my favorite Thanksgiving side? Mashed potatoes and gravy. For sure. Let's see here. I just buy enough product to get free shipping? Yep. That's the way. Lumi says, boom, order placed. Got him. Wait, Lumi, you're new. I should tell everybody. Did you sync your account? If you sync your account with the Aquarium Co-op website, you'll save 5%. Even while you're under this trial membership. So if you sync that account, you will save 5%. I mean, me personally, I do stuff, it drives my wife nuts. She's like, you didn't do the thing and jump through all the hoops for the coupon? Like, no. Because to me, I have this weird respect for businesses where I'm like, I know, because we did real crazy analytics back in 2018. I flew to England and met with this company. And we were there for days in a worker space type of crazy flex office thing. And I had this epiphany of like, wait, the numbers show we make less money is in the bank account at the end of the month than the months where we don't put things on sale. So basically what we found out was like in September, let's say in that year, everything Aquarium Co-op did in that month, and you're like, sweet, the bank account went up by $5,000. We paid all the employees, we did all the stuff, we got $5,000 more. And then we do Black Friday, like November, and we do all the crazy sales, right? We're running advertising, we're discounting tons of stuff, we're buying extra inventory, we're making employees work overtime to get all the packages out, we're doing all this crazy stuff. And everybody is worn out, and it's like, that was insane. And we did crazy accounting. And we're like, after everything was said and done, we made $3,000. Like, we literally make less money doing all that. And I was like, this is not the way. Like, we need to just go, like, this is just the price. And so now, ever since then, we don't do any sales, and there's no extra stress on Black Friday for the employees, and there's no extra, you better wait and not buy, you're going to miss out on the deal, you're going to do all the things. We don't inflate the prices, because we would. We didn't, like, inflate it and then put it on discount. We just would say, like, let's say it was this product, like the Magic Feed. We'd be like, yeah, we could sell it at 12, but we do discounts kind of all the time, so let's bring it $14.99, and then we'll just, 25% off pretty regularly, right? And that just, all it did was penalize the people that didn't use a coupon. And so, knowing that I've gone through all of that, and there was about a year of, I've made a bad decision. Because when you stop doing any discounting, all the people that would only buy with a discount left. They went and found other people that will do discounts. And so our revenue kind of did this. It just went, oh gosh. And it kind of just stayed, and then people would email us, are you going to do discounts again? No. You're not. Really, you're not. Like, really, we're not. And so a lot of those people left. And then everyone we got new, though, goes, oh, they don't do discounting. And it slowly built back up to where it was. And that's basically where we are. We've been basically since COVID, which we kind of had a little bit of a boom, but we're basically level. We haven't really grown much. We've grown as a company. We do more things like content, that kind of stuff, and that. And we have more products. But overall sales haven't grown, which I think is okay because a lot of people have receded in that time. But we want nice, stable growth and not like live and die by what discount code did you send out? What deal did you do? And we're trying to build a much different business that supports the local stores. And that is honestly very important to me. I was a local store for a very long time. And I mean, I still am, but I'm saying that was my sole income there. And routinely, it's getting harder and harder for these people to do business. And so basically, the commitment I've made is I'm willing to do everything I can online to support you guys. You sell our stuff. We'll basically split it. And hopefully, that's enough to compete with Amazon and Chewy and these big guys. That's the hope. That is the hope. That we can stay relevant. I'm not trying to take those guys out. I'm trying to just go, if every year baseball, it's like, yep, you've got the Yankees and you've got whoever else. I at least want to be like, hey, they're a contender. They make the playoffs. I'm just trying to I'm trying to make it so the independent fish store, we can make the playoffs. We're not going to win. We're not doing the crazy deals. We're not doing, we don't have billions of dollars. Chewy ran at a loss for how many years at negative 50 plus million every year. We're never going to win it. But I'm hoping, hey, you made it into the playoffs. You show that you're there. You're there. You're good. You're just not going to win. And so I want all the little stores like me to go, hey, we're here. We're not out. We're here. We're here. Keep your eye on us. We're here. And so if we all go into that together, I think we stay here. And that's the plan. So the fact that you can walk in and buy your fish locally and not have to spend insane shipping, the more we can help support that. We know that if you walk into a store and you buy fish, you're likely to pick up our product. We know that. And if you just needed one thing of food and you're there, you get to save the shipping. Great, because we got to ship it to them in much bigger packages. So in theory, it's better for the planet, better for the customer, better for us, in theory. A lot of steps in between that. We're going to try to build all that out. And we have been building all that out, which restructuring, like had we not spent insane amount of money to move to Kentucky, we would have grown revenue by now. But instead, we diverted a lot of energy into making sure we're not swinging for the fences. There's a lot of companies that they take on debt. They're swinging, trying to hit grand slams. That's all they're trying to do, and they strike out a lot. We're trying to only put together base hits. We'll take a walk. We'll go ahead and walk us. Put us on base. We'll go real slow. But also, for us to die off. Real slow for us to die off, hopefully. Julia Clift, welcome. Joining up. I appreciate it. My favorite thing about Aquarium Co-ops, you don't do discounts. I'm always the one that buys something the week before it goes on discount. I'm that guy too. I don't want, if someone says it's getting tiring looking for all the sales, I just want to live in an economy where you're like, this thing's $4. And then I go, great, I'll take one. Not like, well, tomorrow it's $3, the day after it's $9, 2 hours from now it's $6. If you buy a Diet Coke, it's $1.50. If you do the Hokey Pokey, it's $9. Like, I just tell me. It's the same reason I hate tipping. It's not that I don't think people should be paid a living wage. I totally do. I just have no idea how much you make. I have no idea if everybody around me tipped you $10,000. I have no idea if it's fair that I make this amount of money, the person next to me makes this amount of money, we both tipped you the same amount or whatever. I just want it so that, and I do love visiting other countries for this. Like you look up and you're like, hey, the price is this. And then you walk it up and you buy it and the price was that. Like that seems to me like the easiest thing, and yet somehow it's pretty difficult in this world. I saw the rant emoji, my wife. Oh no. Would I start covering the marine side of the hobby? Nope. I do think there's a lot to learn in the marine side. I don't want to dilute it. And so I remain committed to, we do planted community aquariums. And I try to learn as much as I can. I try to teach as much as I can. I try to make products better for that side of the hobby as much as I can. And let there be room for other people to do that in the marine side, the brackish side, the non-planted side. I mean, even higher end planted. Like, there's a lot of people in a lot of spaces. I don't feel that I need to cover everything. In fact, I try to cover a limited amount and try to do. I feel like there's still lots to teach, or not teach. I've tried to teach a lot. There's still a lot of people to get through to get live plants thriving in people's aquariums. Still a lot of work to do. So I'm hoping that by continuing to stay focused on that, we will get further and further. Even if it's just 1% a year, like great, that's another 30 years, another 30%. I just moved and there was a ton of algae on the lids above the sponge filter. Will the Easy Flow help keep the lids cleaner since the bubbles are directed out? While I would love to take your money, the answer is no, not really. What'll happen is it'll spread it out more. So right now, if the air just goes up and pops right above it, it's going to do that, and the sprinkled water and the light right there creates algae. Well, with ours, your air is going to go woo and just kind of pop, 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 pop in a longer streak. And so it'll take longer for it to be like super dark green, but it will just be a longer streak. So definitely do not buy our sponge filter or the Easy Flow kit upgrade to make it prevent the algae on the glass. It just won't do that. Buy it for the improved flow. It'll run quieter. I do love that part about it. Yeah, but it while magical, not that magical. There's certain things I'll never be able to do, and getting rid of algae is not going to be one of them. I can't have a fish tank. I still watch all your content. It's chill and interesting and fun to see everything. Well, thank you. I'm always fascinated to learn about people who will watch what I'm doing, because I feel like, I mean, I know a little bit of like, I can carry a conversation with a stranger just fine, and every once in a while I make people laugh. But I do find it intriguing, but I totally get it, because there are people that I watch that I really, what do I want to say, like, I'm not into whatever their hobby is they're doing, but I'm interested in them. So I get it, and it's hard for me to wrap my brain around that I'm that person for somebody else. Like, oh, weird. That's weird to me. Does Co-op buy fish from local breeders? We do. We do. We're going to be working on that package a little more. It's, I don't want to say getting harder and harder. We really want to streamline and make it well-defined for people. Right now, it's like people send an email, and then it's like a bunch of questions and pictures, and, oh, you can only deliver on the third Thursday of the month between 10:30 and 10:36 in the morning. Like, we need a whole page of, like, here's what we want. Like, because here's what we want if you're a local breeder. We only want fish Monday through Friday. You gotta talk through email, work out all the details. You gotta fill out a 1099 paperwork if you actually want cash. We want to schedule when the fish are coming in. We want to be able to order the quantities we want. We want them to be at the size they want. We want all these things so that when they arrive, we are totally ready for them. And it's not, well, yeah, I got busy yesterday, so I'm actually here on a Saturday, and now it's at 5 p.m., and there's 14 people in the store, and they sit in a bag for 2 hours. We actually lost 2 of them, and now they're freaking out in quarantine. We want to streamline the whole thing so then we can make sure they get on the floor, they got the blue tag, and all of that. And so it's hard to do when you have a bunch of employees, and it was supposed to come in yesterday, no one warned the crew today, where were they supposed to go? Oh, they're supposed to go here and not there. And sometimes you're like, oh, I thought they were this, turns out they were that. So yeah, we want to make it much easier. We still have, by the way, if you don't know, we have all of our fish on the website. We update it once a week. So at least now you could say, hey, here's what's in stock, and you could take a trip in. Whether we have a lot or a little, we'd let you know, few or many. And that's another step in the right direction towards just trying to streamline everything and streamlining buying slash trade-in slash whatever you want to call it. We also want to do minimums because you'll get people who are like, well, I've got 4 tiger barbs. Like, yeah, we don't need 4. We need 40. And so that's a lot different to us of like, yeah, we'll take them, but the meds to get them ready to go out on the floor will cost what 4 tiger barbs cost us. So we can't really give you anything. 40 of them, yeah, we can give you $1 store credit each or something. Like, yeah, that's fine. And then we need them on this day, roughly. And we're not so rigid, like, it's got to be this time. It's like, Monday through Friday next week, what works for you? Oh, Wednesday at 2? Let me look. Yeah, that'd be fine. You can do that. That'd be great. Yep. So yeah, we just try to work with you. And it's sometimes it can be hard. People get real uppity, too. Like, well, my fish are worth $2. Like, I hear that, but I was paying you $1 and we can buy them for 75 cents. I was already paying you a premium, but I wanted to support the local hobby. I'm not willing to pay 2.5x of the price unless, show me them. Well, you got something that I can't live without? Maybe you got something I can't live without. And if that's the case, we would then reevaluate. Let's see here. Average table for a server is 4 to 6. $5 an hour works out to more than I make an hour. I'm not going to get into it because I always get way too into it, but, depending on where you live here in Washington, you might be making a minimum wage of $20 an hour plus all the tips. And, it's not equal throughout the states or the communities and all of that. The takeaway is this, though. I always want to know, what does my thing cost? And then I will choose whether I buy the thing. That's all I want to know. Whether it's someone working on my house, mowing my yard, selling me a sandwich at lunchtime, any of that. How much does it cost? Great, I'll pay that. I hate when it's like, oh, I didn't realize it had this expectation and this and this and this. I stopped dealing with stores. Store credit is all they offer, and so swaps are way better to offload fish. Yeah. There's always two sides. Like, people forget that a lot of times is like, because people say that to us. And it's like, well, I on average spend maybe $10,000 a week on fish. And like, Aquarium Club won't buy them. It's like, so the guy buying $10,000 in fish, do you think he's the one that doesn't like spending money on fish? Or is there potentially a conflict of interest of like, maybe they don't want fish at 11 p.m. on Sunday nights? Or maybe your fish aren't good, or maybe you're breeding the wrong thing, or this or that. And you go, well, I do way better over here. Like, yes, that makes a lot of sense over there. And so that's why swaps work really well, because a swap, you'll have, let's say 100 people come through the door, and they're all different types of customers. Where like people come through our door, it's a certain type of Planet Community Tank people. And you might, and there always is like, yep, every store, maybe they've got a coalition and they're doing something bad or whatever. But I personally have always been able to sell fish to stores around before I owned stores, that kind of stuff. It was finding the way. It's no different than us trying to get in with a partner store or anything like that. You got to learn to work with people. Some people are weird. And it's sometimes that free shipping thing of like, I would never, ever pay more than 50 cents for a guppy. Meanwhile, they'll pay $4 for a bristlenose. And it's like, oh, well, I'm making $1 billion off bristlenose, and the guy only pays 50 cents on these. So sometimes it's those weird things going on. You just got to learn to play, play to your opponent. Your opponent is a store and going, okay, well, what do you put value in? What do you put value in? Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Is it different fish? Is it time of day? Is it, what is it? Because at the end, I'm convinced that when it comes to a deal, making a deal, both sides have to win. And so even if I say I never buy fish, if you could sell me a fish that cost me $1,000, but I had a line of people at the door willing to pay me $5,000 all day long, obviously I would need to do that. So it's all about making sure everybody wins, and I go through this into different things, but you, the breeder, have to win. The store has to win, and the customer has to win. If you can make all three of those happen, then you have true commerce going. With the swap, you've cut out one of the people, so it's always easier. So if I have to make 3 people easier, it is easier to make 2 people happy, right? I was reading a comment, so I think that came out weird. It's hard to make 3 people happy. If you only have to make 2 people happy, it's easier by 33%. And so that's why typically you would see less pushback at a swap or something like that. Now, you also could go, hey, the swaps only happen once a month or once every 3 months. And that might work fine because you go, hey, I only make 300 fish a quarter. But you might have someone like Dean that's like, well, I make 300 fish a week. A swap can't move them all. So you'll have different varying degrees of all the things. And everyone's situation is unique. And yeah, so gotta play what you can. Let's see here. $2 a fish is not much unless you move 200 at a time. I think it all depends. Like let's say $1 a cherry shrimp. People go like, oh, well, $12 is not worth my time. Like, yeah. What if you had a pond in your yard and you could net out 5,000 of them a week? All of a sudden, now you're China and Taiwan, where that's what you do for a living. So it's all about scale, and it's can you find that many people to buy them? Like there's what we forget a lot of times is selling a fish takes a crazy amount of skills. You had to breed it, that took a skill set. You had to find a buyer, that took a skill set. You had to negotiate, that took another skill set, right? And there's still more to that, like setting up licenses and all of this. So you have to have all these things in a row for it to work out. It's pretty difficult for a lot of people. And that's why most people work for somebody else, because you don't have to have all the skill sets. You can have one skill set really well. You might be the world's best fish breeder, but you're not good at marketing and finding buyers and negotiating. Great, breed and have somebody else do those things. That's what business is. So the reason why I have some people work for me is I'm not good at everything. I'm good at specific things, and I need everybody else to fill in where I'm bad. So how often do I feed the fish in my fish room? If I'm doing it right, 3 or 4 times a day. If I'm busy and the power's out and that kind of stuff, once a day. But more, I get better results. So I try to do it more often. Like I fed a while ago before we set up, I'll feed again before I leave the room. Even though it's only been like 2.5 hours. Like, yeah, they could eat. Since you are the most trusted aquarium man, I don't know if that's true, but it would be a great resource if you had an index on care guides on your website. I guarantee you would get a lot of traffic. Yeah. You are correct. We would get a lot of traffic. The problem is, so as Candy says, we do have care guides. So the other thing is it also ruins all your stats. So what does that mean? Well, that means it's real hard when you're looking at data and going, well, we wrote an article about feeding plecos and we recommended this food. And people from all around the world came to look at it. You got to then discount all those people because they couldn't even buy it. And then you've got apps sometimes that run based on how much they're being used. And so that can cost you money. But yeah, you're not wrong. If every resource was free, we would have unlimited of them. There's some projects that I'm trying to do on the forum that we're working on. And yeah, if time was unlimited, we do all the things all the time, but time is limited, so we try to do as much as we can with the time we've got. So, yeah. Yeah, the blog article has hundreds of articles, and there's some that get thousands of views every single day. And yep, they do work for us. But yeah, it's lots of window shoppers means low conversion rates. Yeah, and it just scales. It just changes things. You got to factor it in going, okay, what am I thinking here? What about this? What about that? And there's always more and more and more. And there's only so much time in the day. So I'd much rather spend time with you guys one-on-one and doing that than at the masses. Let's see here. I'm thinking of breeding CPDs. I've read they're too small for baby brine shrimp initially. What is your go-to food for feeding small fish? I think baby brine is pretty good for them. someone posted, I think on the forum, or was it on Facebook? I can't remember, but at day 3 or 4, they were eating the magic feed. Um, but I don't have the evidence that could be for everybody. Just like people are reporting that like pygmy sunfish and freshwater pipefish, lots of these things that typically didn't want to eat anything but live food are eating this. But I don't have enough. I haven't seen enough in person to like really go, yeah, yours are gonna love it. And so I'm cautious to go, maybe give it a try, but I don't want you to, I can't know if this is your last $12. Don't buy my stuff. If it's like, oh, well, I was going to buy something anyway, like, yeah, your bets are pretty good that ours is going to work because a lot of other people saying it is. But I'm always hesitant because I know enough to know that, someone was saying minimum wage is $2.50 for a waitress in Louisiana. Like $12 here in Washington is much different than Louisiana, different than New York, different than Texas, different than Colorado. And so and what that means basically, I don't know, do you make $10,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $52,000 a year? It's all different, right? And so for me, in Washington, $12 on a new food, it's kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll try that. Yep. But 14-year-old Corey's going, oh, $12. I only have $20 to my name. I'm not buying that. Like this is all the money I'm making from my grandma and other places. So yeah, gobies are eating it. There's a lot of stuff. I'm trying not to overhype my stuff, which any naysayers like this guy's only hype train his own stuff. I tried really hard to put high quality ingredients in. We spent lots of money doing test batches and things where I was like, how much krill can food hold? Do that. How much brine shrimp can food hold? Do that. How much of this can it do that? I like take it to the limit. And turns out fish don't love infinite krill. They don't love infinite brine shrimp either. They want a mix. So same thing. You might love steak. You don't need 40 pounds of steak. Steak's better with like, steak, butter, some sides, a nice drink to go with it. Like it's as better as a package instead of like 32-pound steak. I can only eat so much. And so, but I had to learn all that. And it's one thing to read it. It's another thing to like watch the fish, see how they react. What are they doing? Let's change the blend. And I still will say we lucked out in that this blend was hiding basically in the basement somewhere of a manufacturer. And that finally was like, sent some more stuff, and it was other stuff they had made for us and like that. And I'm like, yeah, they're eating it. And then I just happened to feed these. I'm like, what is this? Like, they sent it to us because it had the ingredients we wanted. And they're like, we have this. And I was like, this is amazing. Can we do this and that? Can we, get it in this container? How much are we looking? Like, and half of my job is just knowing what people are going to like. And so like with these pellets, which I think are amazing, I fell in love with them almost 3 years ago, and it took me 2 years to get them. I saw this at a trade show. They weren't feeding them. SIPS is the biggest trade show. It takes days to walk through it, and there's thousands of vendors. So imagine 2 jars like they're like this big. This is the samples they do. It's like 2 jars like this, but they have like 500 foods on a shelf, right? Just rows and rows and rows and rows. I saw this pellet, and I was like, wait, is that the world's smallest extruded pellet I've ever seen? And I told Randy right then and there, I was like, I want that pellet. I've been looking for that pellet my whole life. That is the pellet we need. And we kept asking, they'd send the wrong thing. And I'm like, no. I took a picture of it. I showed it to you. This pellet. Took us 2 years to finally get it. And then they still had it in different formulas. And they had it in floating and sinking and all of this. And I still had to test them and go through all of those to figure out where's the magic. And, having the fish room helps, obviously. You got to have the fish room to go, okay, let me test 15 different tanks. It passed this test. Oh, this is standing out here. Then you take it to a store I own. You test 100 tanks. Like, wow, they're all doing really well. Then I go to the network of friends of like Bob and Dean and other people, and they love it. With all those networks we developed and all the things, that's how we can, when we go to launch, we're like, I don't know, feedback's real good. It's been doing real good. And so, yeah, I honestly believe the magic feed is amazing and magic, but I believe this is potentially more useful to more people. It doesn't have the flashy paint job. It's like, yeah, it's just a small pellet. But I think over time, people are going to be like, yeah, but it's the pellet. Like this, amazing for breeders, amazing for nano fish keepers, like just small fish keepers. This kind of amazing for like everybody. But this launched first, so this is getting, like this has no reviews on the website yet, but if I had to pick one, to be fair, I love guppies, so I would pick this because I want to breed them. But if I wasn't a breeder, this is the better food. Like for the store, I would choose this. So, okay, yeah, the store, I would choose that. If I had to feed all my fish every day at the store, I would choose that over that, if I could only have one. But, yeah. Let's see here. Situations are situational. True. Let's see. Hopefully everything's going well over at Twin Cities Guppies. We need the magic feed in store feed size bags. That is on the... So, I am being adamant about that. We're trying to get 1 pound packages of some of this stuff for stores, people like Dan's Fish, breeder type facilities, and big fish room people. I want to make sure I can save you guys a little bit of money. What does that look like? So I'm working on it, but the reality is we're probably 3 or 4 months, because even if I place that order today, minimum 2 months, bare minimum. Then you've got Chinese New Year in there. So really it's like 3 months, even if I place that order today. And I want to get the bags right. I want to make sure the pricing, some of it's just negotiation of like, there's always a price. And you're like, well, what if I buy, like our first run of like the Magic Nano feed was like 4,000 units. And then we literally placed an order like 3 weeks later. We're like, actually, let's add another 8,000. But if we had come to them and we're like, well, what about 30,000, 80,000? Usually it's like, ooh, we can save 5 to 10% probably. And so now, if we just go and say, hey, just make us 1 pound bags and we'll take 5,000 pounds, probably the same price. But if we can go, hey, I want 20,000 pounds total between 1 pounders of the community pellet and the magic feed, and then in 1 pound bags and in the smaller sizes, there might be a little bit of savings in there. Maybe. Not always. Like the brine shrimp, they're just like, nope, you could buy $4 million worth. And the answer is it's the price, which is respectful, by the way, because I just I ranted half the live stream about, I just want the price to be the price. Same thing, it's almost refreshing. Like the price is, okay, great. Don't need to argue anymore. But so many of the manufacturers, it's like, well, how much were you thinking this would cost? Like, well, you're the one that makes it. You know how much it costs. How much were you wanting to pay? Because they, in America, we might be willing to spend like, oh, you're willing to spend $5? But in another country, $5 would be like a year's salary. So they're willing to pay a tiny amount, but they'll make it for both of them going, we make a profit on each. And it's in their best interest to make as much as they can. So it's just like, but is this your final offer? Are you sure it won't be on Black Friday sale? Type of deal. So we'll see if we can get that going. Let's see here. Have any recommendations on a budget canister filter for a 75-gallon community tank? I haven't looked at prices lately. For me, for a long time, it was between Cascade canister filters, which were kind of a little bit of a pain, but cheaper. Not everything is still cheap. I haven't looked at the price. Or the Flu Ball. I personally, like on this tank right here, it's running a canister. I'm running a 408. I like the reputation of the Flu Ball canisters. I have long experience with them. They last a long time. Parts are fairly readily available. I think it's worth investing the little bit extra money. I've run things like Suns and other stuff, and they're just made with, in my opinion, cheaper plastics, more wear and tear on the parts, not as good of warranties, and that kind of stuff. Some people do great with them, and they go, I never had a problem in 12 years. And then some people go, like, oh, I had a problem in 6 months. Let's see. Will there be a sinking version of the community pellet or just floating? Just floating. We will design a different product to be sinking. I'm trying to hold Aquarium Co-op to what I try to hold or other companies to, and we don't need a billion versions of everything. And so even though people want different types of sponge filters, they want different type of planters, they want all these things, I believe it's best to the stores and newer hobbyists and all of that, of like, we have one product that does the one thing. And not, well, how do I know which of these 5 to use? Like, yeah, you wouldn't. Where a lot of companies will just be like, just keep making variations. Eventually it'll appeal to somebody. And so, yeah, sinking pellets make a lot of sense if you needed sinking pellets, but maybe you need a sinking stick or a wafer or a large pellet or something new. I'm not sure. But what we often see happen is people buying the wrong ones. They'll go, oh, I meant to buy floating, or I meant to buy semi-sinking, or I meant to buy sinking. And you don't get the scale. That's the other thing, that when you start launching multiple packages, you don't really save any money. It costs more money because usually you save money by print runs. So setting up the machines, like t-shirts are a great example. It might take them an hour to set up the machine to run t-shirts, right? And then they could run one shirt or a million shirts. But that hour is a fixed kind of cost, right? And so same thing with label printers, and it's like the thing, like let's say it's this, right? You got to have the bottle come through, you got to set this bottle size, you got to have that come into the machine, you got to fill it with the liquid. Well, no, it's actually not true. You get the bottle. Yeah, no, you do. You fill it with the liquid. Then you put the top on it, the metal top, like the seal. Then it gets a label put on it. Then you have another machine that puts a cap on, right? And so like our print runs of these are typically like thousands, like I don't know, 5 to 10,000 of each. Like they literally won't do less. And so when you go, hey, I want to do a bunch more. Could I do 100,000? What does that price look like? They're like, well, can I just have one employee kind of feed the machine? We could give you some percentage points off if you're willing to buy 100,000. And for us, we just wouldn't have that money. It's like, well, 100,000 is like, oh, we got to buy $750,000 worth of stuff, and we save 3%. It's just not worth it. But if you're already, like, let's say the Magic View is doing really well, and you're like, well, we were kind of going to buy a lot anyway. Like, you got any savings? I'm like, yeah, we got 1%. Like, we'll take it. I got my 1-year token last order. Came with my new Love Planet Tank shirt. Nice. You can get this on the website. By the way, I think I talked about it a little bit earlier. We do have the ornament. We only brought in 500. There's still some left, but once they're gone, they'll be gone. Just the ornament says Merry Koopmas. We haven't done an order in 5 or 6 years. They might all sell out in a week, or they might be around until the end of time. We'll see. I don't think they'll be around until the end of time because they're selling, but we don't do them every year or anything like that. So if you want one to put on your tree, grab one. If you don't, hey, I understand. I've got a Sun canister filter, 7 years, no issues. Great. I remember, like, the Suns used to be aqua tops, and then those, when they had the UVs would actually destroy the plastic, so they had to fix that part, but yeah. Working on a 3D printed sponge filter cleaner to help automate the process a bit. Could I send you one to try? You could post it on the forum and I could 3D print one. I have a 3D printer now, unless it's like a crazy amount of work. What do I think of Lowell's trays? I'm loving them. It took me a few runs to get the settings down. I'm only running one currently, and I've printed another one with some modifications. Oh, it's right here. I'm still working on it, but you can see this one's super deep. I'm wanting to be able to put. I still want to. Basically, what I want to do is I want to create a false bottom. That's what I'm trying to do. Big enough. So this is supposed to be like this much wider, but false bottom. Then I could put a plant in there, and then I could breed fish. So like imagine CPDs, or maybe even a pair of like rosy barbs. Let them spawn there for a day, take the adult fish out, and then just hatch the eggs out in here and raise them. So I'm wanting to play with some stuff, but yeah, this design is pretty good. We got early samples were sent to me. I didn't have time, so I pawned it off on Dean. Dean and Lowell have been working on it for like over maybe even a year or 2 years at this point. And I finally am kind of gotten back into it. I'm like, yeah, I'm in a point where I want to breed fish, and that would be useful to me. And I got a 3D printer now. And so, yeah, I want to keep making changes. Now they've got it much closer to like, hey, this is usable for me. Here's what I want to play with. And the more you play with something, the more you want to make changes. So, Tyler Woodhouse, what's been the most fun or enjoyable thing you've done with your hobby this year? What's got you most excited about the hobby in 2025? So we're after 5 Pacific time, 8 p.m. So this will be my last thing I'm going to answer probably. Let's see. What's the most enjoyable thing I've done this year? Looking around the fish room. I think the most enjoyable thing I did, which it was kind of painful, was getting rid of all the aquariums and then now building the hobby back to what I enjoy. And so what kind of happened there was it's not, it wasn't just the physical part of that. It was mostly the mental part of like, I don't want to keep doing YouTube for the sake of numbers and the business. I just am not into it. Like, I'll do it, but I'm not into it. I don't wake up going, ooh, what do I want to do today? It's never like, I want to work on YouTube. Instead, it was like anything else. And I was still like, ooh, I wish I could just, really, it was to the point where I'm like, I wish I could do things and not show people. I would enjoy that. And so then I had this thing of like, wait, it's not that I hate showing people, it's that I don't like doing things that I'm not interested in. But what I'm interested in is not what other people are interested in. I love guppies and live bears and building things and whatever I'm into. But that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily good for the business, or the viewers are like, boring, don't care about that. And so the mental shift of, how about I'm just going to do what I want to do, and if I want to talk about cats tomorrow, I'm going to do a video about cats. And then if I want to talk about a video game, I'm going to do that. And then if I want to talk about this fish and spawning that or doing this, then I'm going to do that. And so that allowed me the freedom to like these 10-gallon tanks with guppies I haven't shown you guys yet, but like, they don't really do anything for the business. It's purely because I want to do it. But you guys will enjoy that, I think. Some of you will. And so that's been the most rewarding thing of like getting the freedom back to I can be a hobbyist. I've always been a hobbyist, but it might have been like 80% business Corey, 20% hobbyist. And now it's more like 60% hobbyist, 40% business Corey. Like I'm really doing just like, I don't care. I don't care about that. We're not doing that. Like, but no, I don't care. I'm not into it. It's no. So that, there's probably a little bit more that, like, I'm not sure where the healthy part lands yet. Like maybe it's supposed to be 60% business or 50% business. I might have overcorrected too much. Still waiting to see how it pans out, but I'm not scared if I tear these tanks back down. That's what I want to do. It used to be like, oh, people can be like, why are you always changing things? It's like, well, I had to make YouTube videos. Now it's like, now I'm getting comments like nothing changed. I'm like, yeah. So if I change stuff all the time, you got one group of people. You have this set complaining. If I change nothing, you have this set complaining. And then you've got like the one third in the middle where like they just want to see whatever I'm doing. So I'm catering to that. Like, hey, what are you doing, Corey? I'm catering to this, and hopefully some on each side will kind of, the middle section will get a little bit wider. And then like, yeah, these two groups will leave, but we'll have this bigger medium section of like, yeah, what are you doing today, Corey? Yeah, today we're learning how to mow lawns for a profit. That's what we're doing. And then tomorrow we're doing African cichlids. And after that, I'm keeping an arowana. Why? Because that's what I want to do. And so the second part of your question is, what has got me most excited about the hobby in 2025? Mostly for me, it is breeding of fish. I want to breed fish so bad. In fact, I submitted a bunch of stuff. I hadn't submitted anything to the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society in like since 2017, I think, was the last time I submitted a fish I had bred. And I had bred lots of stuff. And it just wasn't, it was just for me, and it was YouTube and whatever, right? So I submitted a bunch of stuff that I had bred, and I've got a video to back it all up, so it's pretty easy. And I should have enough points where the next meeting that I will attend that they do the awards, I should become, now they would classify me as a master breeder. I've gone through the program and become a master breeder. Unfortunately, I think they usually do it at the Christmas party, and I will probably have to miss the Christmas party because I have a thing I got to do. So that might have to be delayed a little bit. And I'm looking forward to that award kind of a lot because I ran the breeder award program for a set number of years. And so while I was doing that, I never submitted any fish because I didn't think it was ethical to be like certifying my own spawns. And then also I thought it would be real dumb looking if you're like, who certifies you're a master breeder at Aquarium Fish? Oh, you do. You certify yourself, huh? So I had to wait for somebody else to take it over, which that happened. And then the store was super busy for many years, and I just didn't focus on it. And now I was like, I want to get back more to like the club and these things. And so I submitted some plants too, because I can reach other levels of master aquatic horticulturist. I haven't been going as crazy on that because it's like, well, but I do want the fish breeder one, which I have enough points now that I should be getting that. But mostly, I just want to breed fish. I want to get back. So my hobby started with buying stupid expensive fish from around the world, kind of saving up and spending, $200 or $300 on a trio of guppies out of Thailand or something. To the people that have been in it for a long time, everybody would basically just drool over ATFG, all Thailand fancy guppies, like whatever they were putting out. You're like, oh, I gotta get these. But it's like $180, and then you got to import it, and then you got to use a transshipper, and you got to do this. And at the time, that $300 was like, I got to save for a couple months, and I got to sell the fish, and I got to scrimp it together, and then hope they live, because with those transactions half the time, you'd end up like, well, the male made it, the females did. Like, oh no, I've wasted $300, right? And so I want to get back into that. Now, you guys have seen a little bit of that now. That's where you saw the imported stuff I brought in from Indonesia. I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but now the responsibility is on me because I don't want to be just a drain on the business, right? And so responsibility on me, it's not okay for me to be like, hey, you should buy this and this, because that's like business stuff. My own personal hobby is I spent these hundreds of dollars, and yes, the business did buy them, but I need to recoup that by breeding them and selling them to the store to break even, and then I'll buy the next stupid purchase. And the overall goal is to get fish that I like and get them into the country, and so that maybe you can buy a pair or a trio for $30 or $40 instead of $300 or $400, right? And that's what happened with the Vienna guppies and a few other of these little things. And so I want to do more of that because I enjoy that quite a bit. And so that's the plan. That's what I'm working on. And I'm trying to think of what else. And on the forum, I'm keeping a record of like the guppy rack and the import fish and stuff. And really what I want to do is I want to, like this whole rack, the whole overall thing, and I guess 2025, I wasn't really thinking about like, here's the plan. It's just like, this is what I want to do. I will enjoy this. My goal is I'm keeping track of how much I've spent, and I want to break even. I'm not looking to make $1 million. I just want to break even and go, hey, it took me 14 months to buy all the tanks. So like, you got to put the money out. It's like, okay, I spent $1,200, but in 14 months, I am now profitable, and I can keep buying other fish and breeding them. And my whole goal is not to make the money off the fish. It's to be able to play with any fish on the planet and be able to afford it without having to impact business or personal life or something like that. And I think a lot of you would have that goal of your family is diverse. Your significant other might have a different goal than you. They might want a car or a house or a horse, or the kids want something or whatever. And so everybody's got wants. And if you can have like, hey, by doing this, my thing I bought, like maybe you bought a horse and you got to feed it all the time. Like, oh, okay, that's just going to be an ongoing cost. But maybe if you set up this fish thing and you breed it and it makes you money, and that money keeps set aside and it buys you the next fish, And so I want a hobby basically that's self-sustaining on the side without having to inject money over to it. And I just want to spend over there and play make-believe Monopoly money is what I want to do. And I've watched a lot of breeders do that over the years where they treat their hobby of like, this needs to pay for itself. They still, go to work and I'll buy a thing. Like they still do that. But for the most part, they don't want their fish room to be like, well, it costs the family $500 a month. In a perfect world, they basically want like, well, the fish room pays for itself and I profited $100 or $200 a month, and that allows me to buy fish or take my family out to dinner or do the once a year fish trip or something like that. And that's kind of what I want. So even though I can justify all that in business, it's a lot more fun for me when I have to earn it. And what I mean by that is like, I can buy any fish on the planet. We can write a check or do whatever and it will show up. It's way different when I have to earn it though. Like I got there by breeding it. And that requires me to do the work and I have to feel the struggle. And when I get it, it feels so much better of like, yeah, it took me 14 months, but I got it. Where if I can just go, I just click, and order everything, then you get it all and you're like, well, yeah, it's been a couple months, I'm bored again. I do believe, and I've talked about this before, that sometimes the road to get there is more satisfying or just as satisfying, that journey, as the destination for me, especially when it comes to breeding fish. And so I want to savor the way there and not just go, well, I'm there. We did it all real quick and I can, it's the difference between like, I now have been to Germany many times and spent weeks and weeks and weeks. I might have a total of like 3 or 4 months of my life in Germany at this point. So I feel like I know it a little bit better than like another country. Maybe I've only ever been there for 3 days. That's the difference. Like, I could go anywhere I want, but what I want to do is I want to experience it for months and really, get that experience. And so that long journey part is the part that I'm really longing for. So that's 2025 for me is enjoy the journey, not the destination, I guess is the TLDR of it. Enjoy the squeezing of the sponge filter, the water change, the breeding, the good parts, the deaths, the illness, all that. And then eventually through all of that, you'll get the reward. And then that'll start the next one, hopefully. And that's what my hobby was for so many years, trying to get back to that. So, yeah. I see so many questions I want to answer, but save those. And I want to give a special thank you to Tyler there, Woodhouse. This, if you ever have extra time, whether you're listening on the podcast right now or later while you're at work, or maybe you're listening right now, that question that he posed, which obviously not all of you can ask that same question, but a question like that was nice and open-ended and was well thought out, led to a 20-minute thing. Those are the questions I'm always asking when like, hey, bring that great question to the beginning of a live stream or something like that. That really is super duper helpful, because the hardest part of my job is planning the content. Like, what are we going to talk about today? The easiest part for me is when someone goes, hey, I have this super interesting question, Corey. Do you have an opinion on that? And boy, howdy, do I have an opinion that I would love to share with you. And so that's usually why you'll see when I'm on other people's podcasts or in other people's videos, I'm actually more interesting because they've planned or they've asked different things. When every day is a blank page and you got to write the story, you get writer's block pretty easily. So if you can give me a writing prompt, a good question prompt instead of, and I'll answer any question, but there's a big difference between Tyler's question of what's been the most enjoyable thing I've done in the hobby this year and what am I most excited about for next year, where 2 lines up, and this is not a slight on them, but the question is, does a 20 long rimmed aquarium need to be level or need to have a foam pad? One of those is a thought-provoking question, and the other one is almost a yes or no question. And so I'm looking for the questions that lead to an essay answer. And there might be, a third of you in the chat. They're like, oh, I could excel at this. And you might only get one banger of a question a year. You might go, you know what? I think this would be a great topic. And there's some cursors to that, like try not to make it too what do I want to call it? Controversial or something like that, because I'll just avoid it. I don't want to talk politics. I don't really want to talk about other YouTubers. I don't want to have an opinion. I don't want to do a thing. When pushed into a corner, I'd rather compliment somebody, And so, yeah, if you save up those questions, and especially if you hit them up in like that member chat or a super chat, make them stand out, it's more likely I will see it. If not, come to the talk early and pitch that question. I'll write it down and try to address it for you, as I always try and do when someone says, hey, can you talk about this? I try to do that. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like talking about that today, but most times I try to fit it in. Sometimes I just forget. But I want to say thanks to everybody for hanging out with me on this Sunday. Hopefully you got some maintenance done. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got a membership. And make sure you tune in on Thursday. There'll be a special edition of the live stream where I'm giving my thanks and giving away memberships, and we'll have a good time. It's 4 hours long, so it's about twice as long as this. And you might be trying to fill in some time while you're sitting on Nana's couch going, oh, how 2 more hours? We started the turkey late, huh? Okay. You have an earbud in, just listening, going, oh, this is my life right now. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for doing what you're doing, and I'll see you later in this week. Order all your stuff. Today's a great day to order. Get that order in now. It'll leave Monday morning, and you'll be opening a little Aquarium Cool Out presents all week long. So thanks so much. We'll see you around, and I'm going to feed my fish for the second time today. We'll see what you guys are doing later. Bye-bye.